Muzi, our potter, please come through. So you can take your place at your potter's wheel, and we're going to take a few moments just to get to know who you are. And there's space in your books that you can write some notes about the process. And we're going to be exploring the process throughout this morning. But firstly, you did tell me your surname, and I already forgot it. Won't you tell us your full name, please?
It's Mpamali, Muzi Mpamali.
Muzi Mpamali. And he is a father of 5. And he's married, right? Why don't you tell us the names of your children and their ages quickly?
I've got 5 kids. My first is 13 years old, Sipho Setu. He's also a potter. And then the second one is Majaha. He's 11 years old. He's also a potter. And then it's 3 young girls. It's 6 years old, 4 years, and 2 years old. So, yeah.
All right, so while you take that clay out, and you can maybe put it on your wheel, I just want to reflect a little bit on that. So you said it's often found in the valley. And I think figuratively, if we think about when we encountered God, it's often in the valleys of our lives. And you said that we've got to dig it out, and then they've got to dry it, because it was holding together, and then you've got to dry it and then sift it to get rid of the impurities. And you used a beautiful word there, pure. Pure. What would happen if you used clay that was impure?
A lot of things would happen. First, whatever pot you're going to make is going to crack, because it's not going to dry at the same time. So the same consistency. So the impurity, the rock is not going to shrink. Clay shrinks when it's drying. So the rock is not going to shrink. So wherever there's a rock, it's going to crack. Then you fire it, it's going to explode.
Okay, now there's a motivation for us to get rid of some of the impurities in our lives. If we don't get rid of the impurities through the sifting process and you hit the firing process, you didn't just say crack, you said explode, right? I don't want to explode in the fire. All right, so what's next once you've got the clay? Tell us about the 2 kinds of clay that you've brought with you today.
Well, I've got 2 kinds here. I've got the natural, we call it white clay, which I just processed myself, and then there's one that I bought from the factories that process the clay for us. So it's white clay, and then it's brown clay. Okay,
so over to you. Show us what you're doing. Why don't you make us one item, and then we're going to chat a little bit more. And I think Tyron has got a camera that's going to help us so that you can see a little bit more. Oh, we are already up. My goodness, I'm a little bit behind on the times. There we go. So as you get that going, talk us through what you're doing and how you're doing it.
So this machine is called the potter's wheel. So this is what we use to make our pots. It just spins, that's all it does. So I control the speed on this lever here. I just step on it. There's different kinds, but all I have to do is just to make this spin. Then I put my clay here, add a little bit of water, and then you're going to see when as I carry on, I'll just be adding water so to make my hands not stick onto the clay, and then I just pull. But let me show you.
Yes, show us. So as he gets the clay ready, have you considered yourself as clay before? Clay that God wants to use and form into something that's going to be beautiful. If you'll notice our decor on the stage, we've included a couple of different kinds of clay items. And each one is unique. Each one is beautiful. And as we look at the process of forming clay, maybe if you can tell us, how does the clay feel in your hands?
Fantastic. Feels really, really good. It's very soft. So it's important how much water you have on the clay. If it's too thick and there's a little bit of water, then you can't make anything. And it's too wet, still you can't make anything. So it has to be at the right consistency. So.
Okay. Well, I don't know what that symbolizes for you, but for me, that's kind of a symbolism between us as humans, and the Holy Spirit is often referred to as water. And we need to be full of the Holy Spirit, and that makes us soft And you used the word fantastic, right? Show us how it's done.
So I'm just going to squeeze it, and the wheel speed must be at the right speed for me to be able to control the clay into making the vessel that I want to make. So I keep on adding a little bit of water to help not stick into my hands. So I just keep on squeezing it up and down. So as I'm squeezing it, I'm feeling all of the impurities on the clay, all the lumps, because sometimes you may sieve it, but you might find that some of the clay, the impurities have just got into the clay accidentally. So I have to fill it and then get rid of those. And air bubbles also. You see now I've got an impurity here. So I have to take that out there. This is more rock. So I have to get rid of that. So that's the process. I have to fill all of that first before I can actually make a vessel. Then when I'm satisfied there's no impurities, then I start making my vessel. So the beauty of it is that you can shape anything that you want. Any type of shape is up to you. Well, it comes with a lot of practice and experience, of course. But it's a satisfying kind of feeling.
I think the word that comes to mind is the word yield, because the potter's hand is the one that wants to direct, and the clay needs to fully yield with the vision that the potter has for the life that he is busy molding. Now, as that takes shape, I just want to reflect for a moment on the previous phases that we talked about. The sifting, the drying, the getting it the right consistency. A lot of that time is not directly in the potter's hands, even though it's under the potter's care. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that a little bit later, about sometimes we can feel God's touch, and sometimes there's a time of waiting or sifting as he's preparing us. And as his hands help us take shape, we can see the vessel forming in his hands. So tell us a little bit more about what you're making here.
It's just a vase, a nice roundish vase. So, yeah, like you say, the hands are making all the shapes. So I'm just pressing from inside to make the nice roundish shape, and then maybe a smallish neck. So you can, like I said, you can make any shape depending on what you want. Comes with a lot of practice. So there you have it. Nice.
Wow, isn't that beautiful? Would you like to see another one? Would you like to make another one? Okay, all right. So, what's next?
So now, because the stages, now this is not a complete product, obviously. From here, you have to take it, and then you can trim it, just make it a little bit smooth. That's the next stage. You have to let it dry a little bit, though. And then you fire it. You put it in a thing, we call it a kiln. It's an oven, it's a big oven. You just put it in there.
All right, well, we're going to talk a little bit more about the kiln in a moment. Do you want to take this one off the wheel, and then we'll talk about the firing process while you're forming the next one? You can multitask, right? You're at a women's conference. You can multitask today. Okay, so there we've got the first one. And we should probably put some, do we need a plate or something to put that on? Yeah, we can put it on here, no problem. There we go. All right. So as you get the next one ready, are you going to use the same clay or different clay for this one?
I'm going to use a different clay. It's just a different color. But it's all just clay, just a different color. Because this now is the wild clay. This one I purified myself. You just took it from the river and took all the impurities and sieved it. So it's only just brown. It fires red, terracotta kind of color.
Okay.
So. It is messy.
You warned us it was a messy process, right? And I think sometimes serving God does feel a bit messy as we get ready for what the potter wants to do with us. So you said this one fires red as terracotta, and you took it yourself from the river. And then how long, is there a time delay between where it's ready and when you've taken it from the river?
There is a time delay, almost like a week, because when you take it from the river, it's already wet. To get that wetness out, you have to dry it, because it's lumps. Then you have to let it dry for at least a week, completely dry. And then you can crush it, then dry, and then sieve it. And the crushing also is quite an intense process, because it has to be grounded into powdery form. So you can get the roots and the small rocks off the clay. Because as you can see, this is spinning. If there was a lot of rocks there, it could cut your hands easily. So you need to have it very, very soft.
Sure, that image of something that remains in us cutting the hands just makes me think about Jesus on the cross, who took our sin in his hands. We cut his hands with the things that were impure in our lives. Sure. Anybody guess what he's making now?
The process is still the same. You just need to make sure that you squeeze all. When you feel it, as you squeeze it, you have to feel your hands, all of your nerves here. You have to feel the impurities. And air bubbles, you don't need any air bubbles on them as well, because that can also make it very difficult to form anything.
Air bubbles makes me think of when we're full of hot air, right? When we're a little bit full of ourselves. Air bubbles are as dangerous as impurities. Humility. That's one of our core principles with Christian living.
Okay, so and then from here, like I said, you have to then put it through a fire, 1,000 degrees, to harden it, and that also takes all the smallest of all impurities off the clay, because there still are impurities in the clay here, and it's still raw. But when you fire it, then all the impurities disappear, because they get fired. You get rid of all of it. Okay.
It's so interesting for me when you put your hands in the middle and push the clay out so that it makes it space for what you want to do on the inside.
And the speed, you have to, you alter the speed. You can't go in high speed. You go in a high speed when you're centering it like I was doing, but as soon as you start pulling the walls of the vessel, you have to slow down a little bit. Otherwise, if you do, if you speed a lot, it might just collapse, or maybe even fly off the wheel. So, so you have to control the speed.
Anybody ever felt like you're going to fly off the wheel? Or that you might collapse when he's spinning you a little bit too much?
So I love making these vessels. It's nice. It does look like magic, but it's not. Can I show you that? So if this was like my wheel, if I could speed now, that clay would splatter all of the front seat, or so everyone would be full of clay. So you have to control the speed. It's very important. So
What I find interesting is before the invention of plastic, there were so many more items in our homes that would have been made out of clay. Many things that we would put Tupperwares and various other items in a home that Jesus grew up in would have been pottery, right? And that would have been part of their everyday life. And the Bible often uses images to help us understand spiritual principles. And sometimes in our busy lives, we don't always have the time to stop and consider them because things have changed. Isn't that beautiful? Wow. Wow. What's next?
So I brought this to show when it's fired for the first time, now there's no more impurities there, but it's still not ready to use.
So tell us more. You said it's 1,000 degrees. It goes into the fire. How long does it stay in the fire?
It fires 8 hours, and then it has to cool for another 8 hours. So it's 16 hours in the heat before you can actually take it out of the oven. So
But this is only the first of several phases, right? So what happens next?
after this, then we put a glass from, we call it a glaze, it's powder. So what we do, we take a glass, actual glass, and then we just add a little bit of color into it and crush it, grind it into soft powder, and then we dip this pot into that glaze, and then we put it back into the kiln to fire another 1,000 degrees. So when it comes back, now it comes back perfect and shiny like this. I brought this just to show how it looks like at the end. So this is just one of the finished fired piece with all the colors of the clay. So what is shiny is just a glass. But it's made in the form, it's formulated in such a way that you can put color into it and then you can fire it. It comes out finished like that.
So if I were to touch this, this is fragile.
That's still too soft, yes.
And where this is rough,
Yes.
but it's still, I can still tap on it. And then this is shiny and soft and smooth.
That's finished.
And I won't tap that one. Would you like him to make one more? Okay, come on. What have you got in mind for us next?
One more. Okay. So I'm making sure that it's all in one piece, there's no air. Because there's a process that I didn't talk about. When you get the clay, you sieve it, you take all the impurities, put water, and then you wedge. It's a very, very, very important stage. So wedging is just mixing, making sure that the clay is in one, there's no lumps, it's in just one consistency. So you just, like you mixing dough. Yeah, it's very, very, very important before you get to the
So it's called wedging in pottery. We'd call it kneading if it's dough. And that's, you said, to get the air bubbles out?
Yes, to get the air bubbles out and to get the lumps out, because it can be lumpy. So some part may be drier than the other part, so it has to be the same. It's a kind of consistency. And adding water is very important. You need to add water to your hands to soften, so the process can be easy. If I wouldn't add water, then it's going to be too sticky, and it won't work. You need a little bit of energy to squeeze if you're making like big pots, because you can make big pots, even cooking pots, vases. So.
So do you guys get all of those steps? Selecting, drying, sieving, adding water, wedging, adding the water to make sure that it's all uniform, then forming, drying, firing, 8 hours, cooling for 8 hours, dipping it in the glaze, then back in the fire, glazed again, 8 hours heat, 8 hours to cool off. Is it always only 2 times that things are glazed?
Not always. It depends on what you want the final look to be like. So you might find that you glaze more than once. If you want a nice gold onto it, maybe a nice little touch of a gold, then you have to put the gold paint and then put it back in the oven again and fire it again. So each time you want to alter this piece, you need to fire it again to make sure it sticks. So this one is a classic example. If there's a lump into it or an apple that is not properly weeded, it's going to affect you, the whole process. Because now there's a lump is busy going, kicking my hand off, and then the whole vessel gets out of shape. So you must make sure there's no lumps. If there's a lump, you're going to have a problem.
So what will you do if there's a lump and you use the words the vessel's kicking in your hands? What would you do with that? Would you put it back together and go back to the wedging stage?
Naturally, you'd have to destroy the whole thing and start afresh and weed. And actually, the step that you have skipped, you have to go back to that step and weed, take the lump off, then you come back and try to make a vessel out of it.
So would you dry it, crush it, sieve it again?
At this point, it's going to be forgiving because it's already wet. I can just take the vessel down and then wedge it and get the lump off.
Some of you took that personally, right?
It would have been pointless to carry on with it, knowing that it's not the right shape that I want. So it has to be the shape that I intend it to be. Otherwise, it's pointless.
One more. He's not sure whether you'd like one more. Would you like one more? Come on, give him a show of your appreciation. Come on. We're going to do one more. We've got just a few minutes left. One more. So the question is, can you reuse the clay that was damaged in the previous one?
Yes, definitely you can reuse it. The only time you cannot reuse clay is when you've fired it. If this breaks, then you cannot resuscitate that. But that you can use. Even if it dries, you can still dry it and make it powder again and reuse it. That's the beauty of clay.
So if it doesn't come out okay, then you would put it back together again and reform it. And then you said that this one, you can't reform it. You go ahead. But I don't know if you've heard about the Japanese art where they take a vessel that is broken. It cannot be reshaped. But what they do with that vessel is then they join the cracks with gold, so that no vessel is ever discarded. You might have noticed that vessel in the opener clip. And that's one of the Japanese arts. I can't remember the name of it. You guys can Google it. But I believe that God is intricately involved in every single stage. And it's not a conversation, but it's a partnership between the potter and the clay. And as you mentioned, the clay has got to be pure. The clay has got to be willing to go through the phases. The clay has got to be shaped. But ultimately, it's at the potter's will and at the potter's discretion what it will look like, what the speed will be, the speed of the wheel, the speed of the process. It's all up to the potter.
It's because for this one, you cannot really resuscitate it, but what we do is we repurpose it. If it's impure, maybe there's cracks or whatever, we just then artistically we just put mosaic it. We do mosaic art with it. Yeah, that's what we can do. Break it into pieces and make mosaic.
So as we wrap up, has this been helpful to visually see what this looks like? And so some of you might have had you've got your crazy clay in your bags, you're like, oh, my fingers are itching, I want to make something. We're welcome to do that in between the sessions as long as you keep it for the last session, and just visualize where you are at with God. Where do you believe you're in the phases and stages of Him forming, shaping, and perfecting your life? So as we close, these are some concluding comments from a potter.
Well, what I can say is this pottery is quite satisfying. It's very, very nice. You can make anything. It's therapeutic more than anything, because this is where you get all your frustrations out of the way. You get out. You forget the world and just be in your own little zone, in your own little world, and you just do your own little thing. So you don't always have to have something big. If you're a startup potter, then you can just make small things. It's also satisfying. So it's very, very nice.
Well, we're going to have to get some more details in case there's any others who may want to explore the art of pottery. We might consider it a hobby, but I believe it is an art. So
everything starts straight. As we can see, all the vessels, I start making them straight. And then when I reach the limit of the height, then I can start making the shape, however shape I want to make. So, yeah.
Isn't that beautiful? Wow. Muzi, I want to thank you. It's not just today with his time here. He also took time to prepare. He took time to travel here to bring his equipment. Won't you guys stand and give him a real show of appreciation? We appreciate you. Thank you so much.